Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Up first today, Duane Toews visits with Ernie Shea, president of the nonprofit group Solutions from the Land. Then enjoy this week's Kansas Soybean update. Next, Kyle Bauer catches up with Joseph Awika with Texas A&M, who talks about sorghum. Then see how a cattle producer used AI and genomic testing to improve carcass quality in his family cow herd. We'll end with Plain Talk featuring Kyle and Duane. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Find out more at kansasgrainsorghum.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Let's join Duane Toews and Ernie Shea as they discuss Solutions from the Land and how that group promotes a land-based 21st century integrated land management model.
Duane Toews joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas. And I had a chance to catch up with Ernie Shea talking about Solutions from the Land. Ernie, a group of individuals that is maybe looking forward instead of always looking behind them at what could be viewed as problems or opportunities for agriculture.
Well, that's right, Duane. And Solutions from the Land was created by a group of pretty forward-looking farmer, forestry, land management leaders that were tired of being defined as problems and wanted to really change the conversation and focus on the full range of solutions, goods and services that come from the land. So we've been narrowly defining ourselves as a sector that produces food, feed, fiber, more recently energy, but we're also the sector that provides clean water. We're the sector that enhances biodiversity. We're a sector that sinks carbon to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And why aren't we advocating for being recognized and valued for those full range of goods and services? And that's why Solutions from the Land was created.
We think about agriculture in general, the majority of those involved with it are true environmentalists. But we aren't necessarily so good in agriculture about really ringing our own bell and tooting our own horn about the great things that we do.
That's exactly right. So that's our primary core mission, is to talk about, promote, and advance these land-based solutions to global challenges. And what we have concluded after about a decade of work leading up to the creation of this not-for-profit is that the 20th century way of managing land is no longer working. It was government-centric. It was managing problems in silos. It was more than not relying on command and control regulatory programs. So as we look to the future, we see a 21st century land management model that is defined by multi-stakeholder partnerships and collaboration, working together to solve problems. It's going to be a model where we are not managing for water one day, endangered species another day, food and fiber production a third day. These are integrated living systems, and you have to manage them together. So integrated land management. And the last item that we're focused on is really moving beyond just being compensated for the food and the fibers that we produce, and being compensated for these externalities, the clean water, the carbon, the biodiversity. So we're looking for ways to create ecosystem service payments where the marketplace can be rewarding producers for this wider range of goods and services that they deliver from the land.
Our thanks to Ernie Shea, Solutions from the Land, joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Folks, come back after these messages for this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kim Baldwin, who is a producer from McPherson, Kansas, also serves as a volunteer for Common Ground Kansas. Kim, for those who may not be familiar with Common Ground Kansas, what are they all about?
Well, Greg, it's a group of women involved in agriculture from around the state, and we're actually part of a larger network where there's women from across the country, and we have conversations with consumers about food and farming. We really want to visit with consumers to help them make their decisions based on facts as opposed to fear. So we're just available to answer questions to anybody, really, who's interested in how food is produced.
And more, that seems to be a very common conversation that is needed, too.
It is, as moms who want to make sure that they're putting the right stuff in the bodies of their families, as millennials who are interested in what is on the labels of their foods, those conversations are becoming more and more prevalent. And it's really important for us, we feel, to be available and to be a source of information to help those individuals make decisions on their food. Common Ground Kansas has many supporters, and that includes the Kansas Soybean Commission. They do. Both Kansas Soybean and the Kansas Corn Commission are really great supporters of this initiative. Why is that important to have organizations like that, like the Kansas Soybean Commission, be a supporter? Financially speaking, it really helps out in funding events, community outreach events, consumer events that Kansas Common Ground volunteers have been participating in, from events like recently we were with the Wichita State baseball game where we were handing out lemonade and having conversations about the amount of chemical that we apply to our fields, to recently meeting with some dietetic students at K-State where we were having conversations about how we grow our food. And so providing that funding is an essential part, and they do a great job at providing that support. And it's safe to say that you could always use more volunteers for Common Ground Kansas? We are always looking for ladies who are interested in volunteering their time and resources. They don't even have to have a huge social media presence, but a lot of our volunteers do have a social media presence. But yes, we're always looking for individuals who are willing and able to share their stories about how they produce food on their farms and ranches here in Kansas. And they can go to the website as well. They can. We have our website, which is findourcommonground.com. We're also on Facebook at Common Ground Kansas, or you can find the national one on Facebook, Common Ground Now. That's Kim Baldwin, a producer from McPherson, Kansas, and a volunteer with Common Ground Kansas. She joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more Farm Factor with Kyle Bauer and Joseph Awika.
This Medford, New Jersey school bus runs on biodiesel, and so do these. In fact, all of these buses run on clean-burning biodiesel, which is great because the more we use biodiesel in our heavy-duty vehicles, the less carbon pollution in our air. Think how great it would be if more of our school buses ran on biodiesel. More biodiesel, less carbon pollution. More is less. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply. Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Kyle and Joseph Awika talk about the health benefits of sorghum and its uses as food for people.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I have the opportunity to visit with Joseph Awika. He's with Texas A&M, talking about sorghum as a food, or milo as a food, or grain sorghum as a food. My perception, most of the rest of the world, grain sorghum is used as a substitute for corn. Is it the same thing with human food?
Theoretically, yes. Practically, not quite, because there's very little of sorghum that actually ends up in products that corn is used for.
And why is that?
The biggest problem, number one, I think, is because of the functionality of sorghum as a grain compared to corn. The functionality of sorghum is more challenging for food processors. So even if they could get it cheap, it's a little bit difficult to process than corn is.
Would people prefer the products? I mean, sorghum has a lot of health benefits that are brought out. Would people prefer to eat sorghum crops?
Exactly. If the product tasted good, I think sorghum would be probably one of the better selling, if not the best selling grain, because it has all these functional and health benefits that you don't readily get with other grains, including even wheat or rice or corn or anything you can think of. So if you could get a niche where sorghum can function in foods better than other grains, I think it would be a very well-selling food.
Now, you say if it tasted good. What is it that affects the taste of sorghum that makes it not preferable?
Actually, that's a funny thing, because most of the time people confuse, and that's a typical human problem, is that the sensory profile of sorghum tends to be lower than other products, but it's nothing to do with taste. It's mostly to do with the texture of the grain itself. Because when you process with sorghum, it doesn't cook as well as rice or maize under similar conditions. And so you end up with the textures that people complain is either gritty, dry, crumbly, or it just doesn't taste right. But it's nothing to do with the actual taste, but more to do with the texture of the product. Because in terms of taste, sorghum doesn't have much. It's kind of like rice, very mild flavored crop, yes.
So are there things that can be done to improve that taste?
Yeah, the functionality, yes. And that is one of the research we are doing, actually, trying to improve the functionality of sorghum, because we know the biggest cause of this reduced functionality is the proteins of sorghum. When you cook sorghum, instead of the proteins actually opening up, they tighten. So in other grains, when you cook them, the proteins open up and allow water to get into the starch, and it makes the food kind of the texture that you use to most products. For sorghum, they tighten up, and so they actually prevent moisture from getting into the flour or whatever you've transformed sorghum into, and that contributes to this dry texture, crumbly texture, and sandiness.
And how are you able to fix that?
There are some proteins. We have found that some sorghums naturally have a protein structure that is different, and this protein structure allows it to absorb water very readily. But this is it's kind of what do you call a recessive trait. It's a trait that it has to be really nurtured to actually get it to the mainstream sorghum, because these sorghums traditionally are very soft. And so if you are to grow it, most of the problem with either you're going to have weathering in the field where it's just going to be attacked by molds, or once you harvest it, it's going to be difficult to process, because you need the grain to be hard in order to process. If it's too soft, you try to process, it just crumbles and you can't get anything out of it. So we are trying to actually take that trait out of the soft grain to put it into a hard grain and make it more commercially viable.
We're visiting with Joseph Awika at Texas A&M. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Come back after the break for a look at how one producer made his cattle more valuable through technology.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from Doc Talk. Have you asked yourself, how can I help provide relief to wildfire victims? Well, you can go to the Ashland Community Foundation, or you can go to the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation and make monetary gifts. Another way, you can buy this beautiful print that was painted by Dr. Eva Gardner of the Gardner Angus Ranch of Ashland and Clark County area before the fire. This painting will be sold through the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation, and all proceeds will be provided to victims of the wildfire.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and a story about the advantages of using technology to increase herd quality.
When South Dakota rancher Troy Hadrick and his cousins took over management of the family cow herd from their father's generation, they set their sights on improving carcass quality.
I didn't even know quite where we were in our carcass genetics because we hadn't retained ownership before. And so that became a focus of the AI bulls that we were using, which obviously meant we were focusing a lot on the EPDs that the Angus Association puts together. And so we started selecting for that, started changing our AI program to where we were AIing all the heifers and the cows. So every cow in the place was getting that done now. We hadn't been able to do that before, but we were able to track what happened when we started using, the better genetics that were shown and proven to improve carcassability or carcass traits.
3 years worth of carcass data shows a jump from 90% choice and 0 primes up to all choice and higher, 80% of them qualifying for the certified Angus beef brand and 20% primes.
It was really amazing to me. I really thought it would take us at least 10 to 12 years to get to that point. And when we used the GeneMax data and combined it with an AI program that focused on those traits, we were able to accomplish it in about 3-4 years.
The switch to AI came first as the way to get better genetics in more females. Then came the genomic testing.
What I decided was I was going to have this year where I had genomic data and then I had carcass data, and was going to give me a chance to apply it back and see if it matched up. And after that first year, we got both those sets of data and we put them next to each other, and it became very obvious that they matched. And it was really exciting then because, wow, we can really use this for our roadmap. And as we've tracked what those cattle are worth as we move through the years now, the calves that we would have killed that first year versus where we're at now, we've added over $5 per hundredweight in value to those carcasses hanging on the rail.
But what has marbling emphasis done to the cow herd? Hadrick keeps track of pregnancy rate, mature size, and other measures too.
All of the numbers tell us that we haven't really given anything up, but the traits that pay us a lot more at the end, which is marbling, have increased a lot. And so we've made our cattle more valuable by using these technologies.
Seeing how it pays, the long-term cow herd goal is to get as many CABs and primes as possible. I'm Clint Mefford.
We'll be back after the break with this week's Plain Talk.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
There's a lot of different ways of doing this woodwork, but all of it still takes both hands.
He had been told that by the orthopedic specialist in Enid, Oklahoma, that they would have to fuse his thumb.
And I said, no, cut it off, because I didn't want it sticking up. And I found out about the Kansas regenerative stem cell and went to Manhattan.
We were so impressed with how royally we were treated the first time we came to Kansas Regenerative.
We came in and he took out the stem cells. It took about an hour for him to process them before they put him back in my knees and my thumb. And we were out of here in about 4 hours and on our way back home. And I'm in here today to have my shoulders, my hips, and my back done. So I'll be able to go back to my sawmill, my shop, and do about anything I want to do.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Duane are up to today on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk with Duane Toews.
Kyle Bauer, your fact or fiction question of the day. You've heard of the Hummer.
Mm-hmm.
There's like H2. I don't know if there was an H1 or not, but I know there's an H2
There's
and
an
H3.
H3, right.
Yeah. Only the H3 Hummer offers a stick shift option for the transmission.
All the others are automatic?
Correct. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
H3 is the only stick shift option.
Fiction.
It is fiction because they're all automatic transmissions.
Okay.
Even the military.
Even the military only has an automatic
Well, you
transmission.
don't, when you're in the heat of battle, you don't want to be thinking about, am I in second or am I in third?
I'm kind of with that. You
It's
jump
like
in and
mash
pop
it.
the clutch, yeah, and throw the guy off of the
Off the
50
back.
caliber off the top,
Right.
yeah.
Or you kill it.
Well, and
'cause
let's
you
face it,
let
the
clutch out too
automatic
fast.
transmissions anymore are, I wouldn't know if I want to say just as rugged, but when you put the clutch into it as well, and there's no maintenance compared to maintaining those clutches.
You know, through the annals of time, I think they've gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
You just don't hear about people replacing transmissions anymore. And when I was a kid, it was not uncommon at all.
No, well, a car at 80,000 miles when I was a kid, you replaced the transmission and the engine.
And the motor. Yeah.
And
Now,
the interior was junk.
They're just getting broke in.
It really is. No, that's really true.
Yeah, they cost a lot more, but you get more for it.
Japan and us.
Us as in
U.S.
The Americans.
Prior to September 2016, the world's largest vertical farm was located in
Japan.
And what is a vertical farm?
One that is up in the air.
Instead of, right, they have...
It grows up. No, it's stacked.
Yeah.
It's being a building.
Right. It's like a factory. Actually, it was built in a semiconductor factory in Japan. Had 2,300 square meters. So if you can do the math, there's 9.
Well,
take
it's like
that
square
times, and that
yards,
gives
basically.
you square feet. Yeah, but they produce 10,000 heads of lettuce a day.
10,000 head of lettuce a day.
A day.
Yeah, that's cranking it out.
Now, this last year, we were in a conference in San Antonio,
Right.
And I never thought about it. But when you have vertical farms, all your farm workers don't have to stoop over.
No.
That all comes out on trays, and they work at tables all day
Sure.
long. And you don't have to have migrant workers if you harvest every day. You have the same
You have
workforce, just like
every
a
day.
factory workforce.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you can probably afford to pay a little more, too.
Well, you
depending
certainly
on what you're selling.
Certainly more like normal employment,
Yeah.
where you might have health insurance and you don't have to worry about their housing. Where you have migrant workers, you have all of those issues. So 10,000 heads of lettuce a day, that seems like a lot, boy.
Who eats all that?
In Newark, New Jersey, Arrow Farms will take the title as the world's largest indoor vertical farm this year, locating inside a converted steel factory with 6,400 square meters. The other one was 2,300.
Yeah.
This is 6,400.
I think that Arrow Farms is the one that we heard from.
It was, but I didn't think you were paying attention. I thought
you
you
thought
were
I
sleeping.
slept through that whole conference.
I really did.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.